Oh no. We're doing beef stream. We're listening to all the tracks. So far we have spun a few and I forgot to hit the recording button. We've listened to the Rayvon response to Joey. And this honestly is fine because we've had a kind of slow and rough start of this anyway.
This is true.
Like getting going. We were not anticipating doing this stream. Lock in, Melon. I'm locking in.
He's locked
in.
I'm
locking in. I'm locking
lock.
in. That's why you guys are here in chat to sort of keep me keep me on the ball.
In your lane.
So we recently, or not recently, but just listened to the Rayvon GoldenEye freestyle, where or the GoldenEye track uploaded to the official TDE YouTube account.
Mm-hmm.
Response to Joey Badass, where he had some very biting and nasty bars for Joey, where I think, frankly, considering what Joey said in that finals track, in that finals diss against Ray, he kind of put him in a corner a little bit.
Yeah.
Flipped the homophobic bars on him, brought up the Diddy connections, talked about how this beef has made Joey more relevant than he's been in a minute. I think he's put Joey in a position where he has to respond. You know, good 50 Cent callback too in the chorus, like I noted earlier. It's a really good track. It's a really good response. You know, for somebody who, has not really generated a whole lot of attention on the TDE label on his own, I don't think a lot of people expected Ray to come through with a response of that caliber, even with his initial tracks to Joey being as good as they were. Mm-hmm. And, I think it just kind of goes to show that, like, even the smaller artists on TDE, they're nobody to sort of write off, you know, like TDE, they gather talent, they get talent.
Yeah.
You know, they're not having people on the label who are just outright and complete trash.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not getting on that label unless there's something to what you're doing.
Pretty high caliber stuff.
So we heard the Ray track, we heard Joey's My Town, where he mostly focused on battle rapper Daylyt, who he's had issues with for a long time. And, as far as like the framing on the track, I think he had some decent and biting bars for Daylyt. But, the issues between both of them is a little old news. I sort of wonder like what direction that could even go in at this point. You know, that sort of seems like an additional detour side thing.
Yeah, it seems like a side quest almost.
And Joey's almost kind of feeding into it because he's like, oh, it's like 20v1. Everybody's going to fight me now. Sure. You know, it's probably just going to be more press at the end of the day.
Sure.
Let me respond to this guy. Let me respond to this guy. But again, in that track, as I was just saying before I hit the record button, in his own mind, he sort of seemed like he was very much over the Ray thing.
Felt like he was done.
It seemed like he's totally done with Ray. But Ray, put out that GoldenEye response, and it sort of seems like Joey has to respond to that, and probably has in this latest song he's just put out on his YouTube channel again. Now, as we continue the stream, I sort of wonder, like, as we continue through this progression of disses and tracks flying in every direction, which one do we listen to next? Do we kind of rewind a little bit and listen to the Daylyt track to Joey that got Joey responding to Daylyt in the first place? Do we listen to CJ Fly's contribution to the whole thing because he's associated with Pro Era and he's done a diss? AZ Chike, who was recently on Kendrick's JNX record, he had a song drop that was responding to Joey and throwing some bars at him. CJ's was pretty meh. Daylyt for context. What's the name of the Daylyt track? We can spin the Daylyt track. Okay, I see it. Okay, I see it on YouTube.
WRD.
Yeah. Okay, we can listen to the Daylyt track for context. Pretty lengthy one at 4 minutes. All right, let's spin this one. Let's see what it's got. Here we go.
Punching on you badass kids, you heard me. You took light at the start of the summer. Pipe down like the Mario Brothers. If light frown, this is score on your mother. I'm the...
Okay.
Ooh, that was biting.
That was biting, especially the really, I don't know if you caught that, but the very nasty Capital Steez mention, who is a friend of Joey's who was on the Pro Era label in the Pro Era rap collective, who committed suicide, referencing that. The CJ Fly reference was pretty funny. The Mario Brothers line was cute. What was that other one that he threw out there that was pretty the Wyclef line was crazy.
Yeah.
The split your lip line.
I like the one where he's like, if I'm still a zero, I'm still in front of you.
And also and also the Kendrick reference, you couldn't kill Kenny.
Yeah. South Park.
If it was you couldn't kill Kenny with South Park. That's a hood story. I mean, there's definitely like Dime a Dozen too. There was definitely a lot of standout bars.
Mm-hmm.
The delivery and the connection with the instrumental left a lot to be desired. But the thing is, like, I feel, and this is like kind of historically true. like a lot of famous and very talented battle rappers don't necessarily do as well in the booth making like commercial tracks. Like they do well in a certain sort of like context.
Interesting.
Trying to take that delivery over a beat that kind of like flows fluidly and has kind of a groove to it. Sometimes the results can be kind of rough, and it sort of seemed like he was almost like outperforming the beat a little bit.
So it's more of an emotional kind of performance than
it seemed almost like, again, I feel like you could have had any beat under that and it would have been fine.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but with that being said, I like how between this and Joey and CJ Fly so far, we've got all of these aesthetic, but also like direct callbacks to New York hip hop in the 2000s. Like we're going back to Fabulous and Cameron on this instrumental over here. We're going to 50 Cent. And we're bringing back again, like those big booming beats with the horns. And so on. Like I don't know what it is about this era of music that everybody just sort of seems to be tuned into.
Maybe they're just catching up for kids who weren't there the first time, you know?
Yeah, maybe that's another thing.
They're too young for it.
And again, you know, I think also like this was, I'm sure for a lot of them, especially Joey and Daylyt, this era of time was also like maybe one of the last times for them that in their own minds, like they had a big rap beef, like loom huge in their heads, because, you know, that was like Jay-Z, Nas, so on and so forth.
They would have been kids around that time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, again, I'm sure that was a time that sort of, you know, calls to them as like, oh man, that was like a prime era for tension.
Yeah, classic.
You know, Jadakiss 50, so on and so forth.
Sure.
So maybe it's got something to do with that too. No, the beats are most definitely hard. Okay, CJ Fly Stingray next. I do want to hear the CJ Fly contribution to this whole situation. But I feel like that Daylyt beef was okay. And again, or Daylyt song was okay. I don't know how much deeper Joey's going to dig into that though. As nasty as that capital C's line was.
Pretty rough.
Yeah. Joey dropped My Town a few hours later, and then Ray dropped Goldeneye. Now we're at Ayo by Daylyt. After that's Crash Dummy by Joey, which was mostly a Ray response. Okay. So we're going to hear the CJ Fly track. Does anyone in chat even want to hear the Reason songs that dropped after Joey mentioned him? Or are we just like not interested in the Reason tracks? Just, you know, tell me now. It was an Ab Soul Bar. Okay. But I just want to know, going further into the stream, are we even everyone? Nah, two Nas in
two
chat.
Nas. That did it.
Poor Reason.
But not really.
No, the person I want to LMAO, yes, but no. Okay, we don't need to address Reason there. Reason was actually good. I mean, the Reason tracks could be good. I haven't heard them. I'm not saying that they're necessarily bad. And I don't even know if Joey meant to sort of like reference him in necessarily a negative way. The way that the Reason bar came up in the original reference, or not reference, but response to Ray, sort of seemed like, you know, your label's going to screw you over the same way they did him. It sort of seemed like an acknowledgement of the fact. And you know, fans already know that like Reason, who used to be on TD, was not treated very well by the label. So in a way, you know, it didn't even necessarily seem like a shot at Reason. It just sort of seemed like an acknowledgement of what everybody already knows.
Sure.
Like
Okay.
your label screwed him over.
Right,
and they're going to do it to you too.
Could be.
So, okay, let's listen to the CJ Fly track, Stingray. And I should say, for greater context, I do believe in the Red Bull freestyle cypher thing that was going on between Joey and Big Sean and Ab-Soul. He did also mention Daylyt in that, so that probably was also the reason Daylyt dropped a track to begin with.
Okay.
Maybe that could have been avoided if there was no mention of that whatsoever. Though, I mean, again, I know that they have history that goes back much further than that. If there's something else that sort of spurred even that mention in the Red Bull thing, you can fill me in chat. But, you know, again, we're kind of catching up with all of this. There's so many tracks, responses going in multiple directions.
It's like Game of Thrones over here.
Exactly. Daylyt was the main target in that freestyle from Joey. No, I know. We did talk about that.
Yeah.
On the whole first half of the track, he was mentioning Daylyt mostly, and for the most part, it sort of seemed to be in his own mind just sort of totally done with Rayvon. It sort of seemed like he felt that the finals was so good, there's no way Ray could have possibly come back. But Joey did respond to him. So, you know, there must have been something in Rayvon's Goldeneye freestyle, Goldeneye track, that got Joey in a corner needing to say something. But still, before we get into that, Let's listen to what CJ Fly does on this song, Stingray. Is this song mostly a response to Ray? Is it mostly like who is the target for CJ Fly on this track? Is he trying to back up Joey here? Like, what exactly is the energy? I know, and Daylyt sort of acknowledged this on the song that he just dropped. Yeah, Ray. I know that CJ Fly and Joey, I mean, really the whole Pro Era crew in general is not as close as they were at one time. So, you know, I'm sure there's Daylyt, you know, between all of them these days, maybe certain feelings around the way the group and certain careers went and so on and so forth, which I think is understandable. So Ray called Ray old, or CJ called Ray old on drugs, which led to this response. Okay. So we'll see what CJ Fly has to say about all of this, getting into the mix, because he feels like he's been slighted in the midst of all of this. Let's see what he's got to say on Stingray. Boom.
And my homie keep a drinking, so you can say it's God's plan. Put the spin your culture set like we was watching Knots Land. Next time you cook in the stew, just make sure that it's not bland. You can say a friendly competition, we are not mans, nigga.
Okay.
Wow.
The tone shift, did the focus of who he was rapping about not shift in the second half of the track?
Maybe the beat shift was cool.
Can someone in chat fill me in on this? I mean, I think where he was directed in the first half of the song was pretty clear, but was he not focusing on someone else in the second half of the track? Either way, it sort of seemed like not only did CJ Fly sound great on this track, really commanding these two different instrumentals with some pretty good wordplay, but also I feel like the most standout thing about this track is it seemed like he did a psychotic amount of research.
Yeah.
On like he was bringing up tons of personal shit.
Yeah, a lot of history brought up on this one.
Like, you know, you love a guy who's going into a beef obsessed with their opponent, and it's like I'm gonna look up everything about you.
I mean, that's what made the Drake and Kendrick thing so amazing, because they do some crazy deep stuff about each other.
Yeah, so, I was thinking maybe it was Daylyt because of the ass outline and the indecent exposure stuff.
Yeah,
like it sort of seemed like he's like, I have basically a whole portfolio on this guy who I'm rapping about, and I'm going to bring up every dumb little thing that I know about you. So it really became like less, and obviously the lyricism was good, but it became less a sort of battle of double or triple entendres and more of a battle of like, I'm just going to like rapid fire every single embarrassing thing about you,
just information I have on you, and here it is,
one single verse,
yeah,
and just pile it up. Yeah, I'm sort of thinking again with the Daylyt thing that there might have been sort of an obvious shift going on there in the second half of the track, and I think that's like kind of what the beat change there facilitated too. But good one from CJ Fly. He has not sounded that nasty in a minute.
Excellent vocals.
I'll say that. Yeah, and great vocals.
Excellent.
The depth of his voice is just incredible. I mean, I'll say this so far. This whole feud is bringing out some great stuff out of everybody. That was a depressive one. I certainly liked it more than the Daylyt one. Rayvon so far, I think, is my favorite.
Yeah, same.
The Joey Badass response to Daylyt, for the most part, I thought was okay. Definitely not as strong as the finals was.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree.
But I feel like my favorites so far are probably CJ's and Rayvon's. Do you guys want to jump into the Joey track next, or do you want to hear the AZ Chike track responding to Joey as well? I know you guys want to hear both, and we will hear both. I just want to know. Okay, well, somebody said AZ Chike first, so we're gonna get into that one first. Okay, yeah, this one seems like chat said, this one seems a little short. It is titled "What Would You Do?" As someone just said, is there another track too that he's done
from AZ?
Yeah, from AZ. Has he done two tracks? In the midst of all of this, AZ clearly feels like, you know, especially with him being connected to Kendrick, being on his recent record. You know, Joey kind of like not only upset about the attention the West Coast is getting on behalf of Kendrick and all of the attention he's been garnering as of late, but AZ Chike musically, culturally, very aligned with the West Coast. You know, it's sort of understandable that like Joey throwing shots in that direction would upset a young up and coming rapper who is deeply ingrained in the music scene over there, especially since, like, I'm sure in a lot of respects, you know, Kendrick with GNX like really helped popularize a certain sound and trend going on in LA at the moment in music. And I'm sure Chike, among the other rappers who guested on Kendrick's record, are really happy to sort of like see more attention on this stuff than it's gotten in years. So, hearing a New York guy like Joey kind of come out and be like, who cares? What's with all the West Coast dick licking, so on and so forth? It's probably pretty annoying to probably hear. What would you do? And Game Time. There's another one, Game Time. Def borrowing the Dog Pound title from the 90s beef. Let's give this Joey Badass diss from AZ Chike a listen and see what it's got. If we can get the other one, we'll listen to that one. But most definitely in a track or immediately after this, we'll listen to Joey's response to Rayvon with Crash Dummy. And I think that should be the last track we need to hear of all the tracks, unless another one comes up
as we're doing this. Yeah.
Game Time is more subliminal. This is direct diss. Okay, well then maybe we'll just kind of spin this one and then go into Crash Dummy. But what would you do? Joey Badass diss from AZ Chike. Let's hear this one and see what it's got.
Ray got some, I get some, we going 50-50. Tag me in, trying to get a nigga gone. Yeah, you bad to the ass, I'm just bad to the bone. Gave you a little snip, you wasn't even worth a song. Shout to opium.
Wow.
Okay, short and sweet. But, bringing up a lot of the same points that like Daylyt did in his diss against Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's been a while since you've been hot. You've been trying to get into acting.
Haven't had it in a while.
You're not your own man. There's like no reason for you to be sort of like hostile toward the West in the way that you've been, like suddenly out of nowhere.
Right. Where'd that confidence come from?
I mean, like, not the most lyrical track that we've heard so far. And I feel like the energy and momentum sort of like kind of just turned down as the song progressed a little bit. But I mean, it was pretty good.
No, I like his voice anyway, but
no, for sure.
A little sleepy at the end, but
I mean, so far I like that this beef stuck to that West Coast sound, like
it did.
And I liked the Dog Pound throwback there. Like he knows where he is musically and stylistically.
Yeah.
He's not going to just hop on some 2000s New York boom bap hornback beat just because it's kind of like the flavor of the moment.
Just because it's there going
everybody,
on right
he's
now.
like, this is my sound, this is my vibe, this is my direction, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm running with it. It was a response from Daylyt of My Town, which goes after Loaded Lux. Okay, wow. Okay. Well, there's another one from Daylyt. Okay. Well, I want to jump into the Joey track because honestly, I feel like I feel like the main course of this whole situation is really just the Joey Rayvon thing.
Right.
We can hear the Daylyt. I'm fine to hear the Daylyt. But I do want to listen to this track next because this does sort of seem to be like the succession of things and where this beef is like really moving. And if it continues, I feel like it's mostly going to just be a thing between Ray and Joey. And, regardless of what is going on with Daylyt, I feel like if the Ray and Joey thing ends, I feel like that's the planet all of this is orbiting around. So if that goes kaput, I think the whole thing is probably done. So this is kind of like the main focus over here. Joey going, presumably just kind of focusing on Ray. Maybe there will be shots at Daylyt too. Who knows? We'll see. But going at Ray for 5.5 minutes. Is this longer than the finals was? I feel like the finals was like 4 minutes. So we got 5.5 minutes of material here on this new track.
Got a lot to say.
Okay.
It's about time, nigga. Goddamn. Almost got sick of waiting. Like a bad doctor, nigga. I ain't got a lot of patience.
Okay, wait, pause. We're doing the West Coast Tupac callback with he's like impersonating that like LA flow. He's like trying to okay.
Yeah.
No, the sample. Oh, Kirk Knight produced this again. Okay. That's kind of, well, I mean, not just the K-Dot delivery, but like that whole West Coast delivery going on right now. I mean, AZ Chike was kind of doing a little bit on his track. Okay. That's crazy. That's crazy that he's like, I'm going to show you I can do your sound or whatever, but he's like really responded since Ray did the 50 Cent New York 2000s thing. He's like, well, I'm going to do your thing.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. I mean, that's funny.
Seems fair, I guess.
That's fair. That's funny. That's funny. That's a funny way to approach it. That's a funny way to approach it.
It's true.
Okay.
Complimentary.
For a second, I know this is a Joey Badass track, but for the first few seconds, when I heard the first few bars, it took me out. I was like, when's Joey going to start rapping? It's like, wow. It's like, and it took me a second. I was like, damn, that is Joey. That is Joey. I've never in my life heard Joey rap like that. That is crazy. That is crazy. Okay. All right. Let's continue.
Niggas just clickbait. How predictable this the angle I was anticipating. And thank you for making it clear to me that die scared, but yeah, I was at the party, but I also seen top here. In fact, we were talking about the same.
Wow. I also love the take, like the wop, 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 wop. Like
right.
He's kind of borrowing from
Little
the Kendrick track there.
Call back there, yeah.
I mean, Joey's got his own story and angles to this whole situation and seems to be theorizing that, like, he's doing TDE a favor to make Rayvon hot here by engaging with him in any way whatsoever.
That's his way of being above it. He was done with it. So now he's like, you know what? I'll just let him cook a little bit.
His way of being above it, also asserting once again, like, I deserve a Kendrick response if I'm going to be getting responded to at all. And again, sort of like frames Ray as being, well, he literally says crash dummy, but like almost like a decoy.
Yeah.
He's like, they're letting me beat you up
right
for attention because you're expendable. Is essentially his argument.
I can see that.
I feel like as much as I'm sure like the Diddy parallel stung, Joey, I think, was smart to flip, and it is true. Like, there have been accusations recently against executives and higher ups at Top Dog Entertainment that have made some headlines. I mean, there has been like a lot of questions and rumors about whether or not that's like somehow connected to Drake in some way because of obviously, what's been going on between him and Kendrick.
Sure.
But like, still those are out there, and a lot of people, it's created questions, it's created valid questions.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Joey is basically responding to the mutual, like, you're pulling my skeletons out of the closet, I'm going to pull out your skeletons out of the closet, and we're going to basically see who's got more skeletons in whose closet. With that being said, I feel like Joey had more impressive lyrical feats pulled off on this one. And I feel like he almost did like a better job of chameleon style, like adopting the other coast sound than Ray did on his track.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, yeah. I think Joey very much more impressively was like, you're going to adopt this. Okay. It's like, I'm going to do your sound. I'm going to outdo you doing your sound.
On your sound.
That was pretty crazy. Like, Joey performed really well on this track.
He was confident.
This is not his flow at all.
Not at all.
This is not the way he raps. This is not the sort of instrumental he raps over. He doesn't have anything to do with anything that sounds anything like this whatsoever. And yet, like, performance-wise, he came through and fucking smashed it.
He's a student of the art.
No, it did feel like way more natural for Joey, even though he doesn't do this at all. I will say, though, the bars on this track that really kind of like had me questioning and wondering a little bit if he's like putting the cart before the horse. He sort of seems to think like very immediately, this is going to be pretty much done and over. After this beef is done, we're not going to hear from you ever again. And he's like, oh, are they even going to let you drop after this? Well, which maybe yes, maybe no, but it sort of seemed like, again, in his own mind, like, okay, this is me finishing you, which like Ray, the likelihood of Ray responding past this point is like 200%.
Oh, he'll respond, but it's a matter of how you use your words these days. And we learned that big time with the Drake and Kendrick thing, where if Kendrick calls Drake a PDF file, enough people will get behind that and rally against that thought. Yeah. And so if
can I win in the court of public opinion?
Right. So if Joey's like, you're done, he's going to put that out there. Other people will rally against him or with him rather and be like, yeah, he's done. You put him away. He's done.
I will also say this for context. Going back to the earliest bars on the track, he does say, like, with the release of this song, you guys are on like, 24-hour notice again.
Yeah.
To like drop something. And, given the context of this track, given the fact that, Joey responded with a song that has a West Coast sound, this is a very direct and very quick turnaround from the Ray song that we heard earlier, which, like, that's a crazy turnaround for a song of this quality.
It's only been up for a handful of hours.
It hasn't even been up for 24 hours
it's
yet.
Super new.
Ray's track hasn't been up for 24 hours. This track is not up for 24 hours. This is a crazy turnaround for a song that is this good.
Especially with the production and everything else. Like,
the production's great. The flows are crazy.
Yep.
The wordplay is on point. The response overall is like a thoughtful, well put together response. Like, this is a crazy turnaround. This crazy speedy turnaround for a song that is this good.
There's nothing more powerful to inspiration than immediacy.
I remember, this makes me think back to like the Drake Meek beef, where, you know, Drake was dropping multiple tracks and then put out back to back and so on and so forth. And then Meek eventually came out with his song in a time frame that, you know, seemed like kind of premature, I guess, given that the response sounded like ass.
Yeah.
Like the bars weren't there. It wasn't focused in any way. The production was terrible. It sounded like it was recorded like crap. And it was like, man, you really couldn't muster anything in the span of time that you had to respond to this in some way.
Had a few days back then, probably.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Plenty of time.
You went to a Diddy party and saw Top there. The thing is, like, so many executives and big wigs in the rap industry went to those parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like this is such a topic that should not be coming up with anybody. Because like the amount of people who have not been to those parties is much smaller than the amount of people who have, and not even just in rap, but the entertainment industry in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I remember even recently, like that famously, it's this whole brand, like that famously Christian rapper Lecrae was on a podcast admitting to having to gone to one of the Diddy parties, and he's like, when I was there, I saw evil, and it's like, well, what did you think was going to be there?
Why were you there, buddy?
It's like you're a Christian rapper. That's your whole brand. It's your whole deal. You know what I mean? It's like, if there's one party you should be avoiding, should be a Diddy party.
Good Lord.
But the thing is, like, so many people in the entertainment industry have been to those parties. So, you know, you would think like this wouldn't be coming up as a topic because either you've gone to one or you're somehow connected through either your collective, your label, people who sign you. So to somebody who has been at one of the parties or something,
you know, 6 degrees of separation there.
Exactly.
At some point.
It's like, it's questionable. It's a bit odd.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised it's even coming up as a topic at all, but still, with that being said, that may have been my favorite track so far. It's this and the recent Ray track that are my favorites so far.
Musically, this was really cool and it reminded me a lot of the early 2000s. Again, they're going for that vibe a lot, but cool little melody in the background.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the instrumental was like the whole Tupac throwback. I mean, you know, it's I like how they're kind of calling back to these other beefs and so on and so forth. Like they're all clearly like students of this, you know, and they're pulling out the references, they're calling back, like they're really doing this for the nerds,
and they understand the power of their words
like
too.
Have studied all of this
completely,
like are, you know, have all the memories of every great beef of the past in their heads, and are sort of like measuring every song that's come out, not only against, you know, the two guys mostly kind of focusing on each other here, but every beef that they can recall, you know, that they loved sort of hearing and growing up as hip hop heads. So Theory, what would be the best response to the track? I don't know. You know, I kind of feel like it wouldn't necessarily make sense for Joey to, not Joey, but Ray to sort of like, I mean, I do agree Ray's on the clock again, but I mean, Ray has been so eager to respond this entire time. He probably is going to respond, maybe even faster than in 24 hours. And I feel like he's probably got to go in a different direction. I think if he comes back with another like New York sounding song, you know, it's like, it's not really going to make sense. Like you kind of already went that.
He's done that. Yeah.
And you know, if you're not somehow out New Yorking Joey West coasting, you know, I think he's got to come back with something else.
A country song.
A country song. He's got to come back with something else. You know, see, here's the thing. It's like a lot of the receipts that Rayvon had on Joey, I feel like he's like sort of brought up or thrown out at him before the finals response dropped. So for him to kind of like circle back on a lot of that stuff, I don't know how much that would make sense in another song.
You have to have something huge that he didn't bring up in the last one.
Yeah, see here, like they're pretty like, you know, while I am more impressed consistently with what Joey has been doing lyrically, like I do feel like they are, you know, kind of neck and neck. And I feel like Ray's going to have to sort of like outperform him in some way or outdrop him in some way.
Yep.
In a way that's actually like sort of memorable here. You know?
Probably short and sweet to the point, not super wordy, not super long, just really try to get him.
I guess I'm just sort of wondering what can Ray possibly say to sort of get at Joey in another track that he hasn't already sort of like brought up before? I guess is like my question. I mean, again, I think Joey did like a really solid job. The 101 Dalmatian lines, just to spot him, I thought was a very solid reference. Again, dropping or not dropping like Detox.
That Pandora's Box line was good.
The reminiscing over you like Pete Rock line was really funny. You know, the chorus was really solid. Yeah. You know, I feel like it was like a really solid put together track. He made points. adopted, a West Coast sound really well. And I'm just kind of curious to see what the heck Joey is even going to, or not Joey, but Ray is even going to say in response to this. I mean, not that I think, it's a track that would be impossible to respond to, but I feel like he really did sort of like call Ray's bluff with the last track in terms of like, well, I'm going to do a New York sounding track
completely
and tear you apart on that sound. And Joey did just as well, if not better, on that front. So like, what could is Ray going to double back to a West Coast sound? It's doing it in this way, it's gone beyond just sort of like a show of lyricism. It's like, I'm going to show you how I am as a performer.
Yeah.
And sort of like outperform you artistically on a style that is like supposed to be in your wheelhouse.
It's supposed to be your thing.
And I'm going to claim it and do it better.
Exactly.
In some way.
And that speaks more volumes than any lyric would.
So, I mean, I feel like this can only escalate to a certain point if it just continues to be Joey and Ray. And as much as Joey is focused on Ray on this song, it seems like he just is dying for that Kendrick response. He's dying he needs the Kendrick response.
Is Kendrick still on tour? He might not care.
He's still on tour.
I don't think he cares.
He's still touring with SZA.
He's having some good dinners for himself and hanging out. And
busy. Kendrick's probably not getting into the booth right now.
He's not online right now.
Just like being like, okay, I'm getting ready to tear up Joey Badass.
He's not going to start a show in 10 minutes.
Maybe he just has to drop a better song. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just sort of wondering what will the better song be, and that's I guess that's a great point, and also another thing that could blow this situation up, because I feel like part of what Kendrick did to sort of end the Drake beef in the fashion that it happened was like, I'm going to outright you with a song that's just catchier than every song
and that does work
that you've done so far. So if he can write some catchy track that slanders and embarrasses Joey,
yep,
and like gets so big and so popular and so viral that everybody's just like playing it outside and playing it at parties and so on. And
quoting
he's
it.
from TDE. He has the connections to be able to sort of put together a song like that.
He's got the management behind it. Right.
If I can outright you on the level where I just like write the catchiest, most memorable song of this whole situation.
Yeah.
And we're maybe at a bit of at a standstill lyrically, if I could just write a catchier song than you, then maybe that'll sort of do it.
So he needs Mustard. He's going to call Mustard up.
Oh man. Whoever attracts the most public. Well, I mean, rap beefs are decided in the court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That is how they are decided. It's fan service.
Yep.
Like you're feeding into the crowd. I mean, I'm sure when it comes to like the biggest beefs of all time among like maybe the biggest lyrical heads and nerds and so on and so forth, like, there are different competing opinions in terms of like, who had like, the better lyrical showing on a certain given track.
Yeah.
But like in the context of most rap beefs is usually sort of like in terms of who won and who lost is typically decided by, who won over the crowd the most.
Absolutely.
And who had the most people sort of like favoring them and excited for their response.
Absolutely.
It's just the way that it typically is. I mean, it's fan service. Okay. So Daylyt AO 7 hours ago, Daylyt has had more to say about Sir Joseph Badass. Let's play this one as well. Let's see what this one has to offer. And this will be probably the last one that we spin. And we can go from there.
Okay.
But yeah, this has been pretty much the Beef Watch 2025 stream. The Daylyt track is titled again AO, AYO. Daylyt pretty much gave up and dropped a Steez tribute. Oh, interesting. From what I understand, this AO track, as has been said in chat, and the comments here are referencing this too, this is another addition to the beef. Let's see what this one's doing. Let's see what this track's got. What is Daylyt saying on it? We'll find out right now.
All that acting ain't in the trenches, don't be acting cool, Joe. Oh, I mean, I snapped for the fences, boy, then brought in my art. Oh, we think I'm gonna go get Kendrick. Here you go.
Yo, my bro, Daylyt.
And we're finished.
Yo, bro is demented.
That took a complete left turn.
It was a very edgy Eminem ending there. Yeah, he said up syndrome.
Up syndrome.
I mean, I'll say in terms of like performance and his flows and the various beat switch ups and everything, I think his performance there was a lot better than on the other song that we listened to earlier.
Oh, it was confident as hell.
Like it was much better, and I loved that part of one of the final verses toward the end of the track where he was counting down, like with all the references to 5 and then foe, and starting at 10. Like that part was sharp. That was a very sharp part.
Smart.
But by that part of the song, it sort of seemed like he was less kind of trying to tear Joey apart and more just like showing like, this is something I can do. This is my skill level that is beyond you. So, I mean, I think it was a solid response, but I just sort of like wonder how far this is going to go down, and if Joey's going to focus more on sort of like Rayvon going forward from here, because Ray, I think in Joey's head, is kind of like the pathway to what he really wants, and that's a response from Kendrick.
Yeah.
You know, as much as, yes, it is true, there is like a Daylyt and Kendrick connection. I don't think destroying Daylyt or continuing to go at Daylyt is going to bring Joey any closer to that, at least in his own mind.
I just don't see.
I think he probably sees the TDE and the Rayvon responses and everything is sort of like more blood in the water in terms of like what I actually want and where my focus needs to be.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't see Kendrick jumping in though. I really don't. I think he's going to stay out of this until if it gets like too messy, maybe he'll say something. But I think it's behind him for right now.
I feel like the only thing again that can really put things in that direction is if Joey and not Joey but Ray, if Ray somehow closes this up with like the catchiest song of all these songs that have been dropped, it'll be done. But I feel like Joey has the potential to do the opposite. You know, or do that himself. And if Joey does that instead, and sort of like the virality and the fervor around all of this becomes like so big, and there's like, I feel like if Kendrick is going to do or say anything, it's going to require outside pressure. You know, it's going to require
for sure
sort of seeing this and fans seeing this and being like, oh man, this has gotten so crazy. And this is kind of like embarrassing for TDE and the West Coast in some form or fashion.
Right.
Like someone needs to tag somebody. That's everything. I feel we've played all the tracks so far. I feel like we are fully and completely caught up on Beef Watch.
Feels good.
2025.
We know what's up now.
We've officially beef watched, and we're done. It's been me. It's been Giggins.
Bye.
We watched the beef.